In June 2023, at a construction site on the outskirts of Phnom Penh, Cambodia, a worker suddenly discovered a decomposing body floating under a water-filled pit. The victim was identified as a famous South Korean streamer, which caused an uproar not only in Cambodia but also throughout Southeast Asia when the case was discovered. The body was found without a bra, with underwear worn inside out, a swollen and discolored face, and signs of early decomposition. The police began investigating and identified the suspects as a Chinese couple with close ties to the victim. It remains unclear whether this is a standalone murder case or something more horrifying behind it. The answer will be revealed now. Please like and subscribe, because the story you are about to hear is not just a case, it is a journey into the darkness of truth, where the victim might have been betrayed by those she trusted most. On the morning of June 6, 2023, at a village on the outskirts of Phnom Penh, Cambodia, a worker operating an excavator in a waterlogged pit was startled when he discovered a red object wrapped tightly in electrical wires floating in the mud. Noticing something unusual, he called security to check. Upon closer inspection, both men were stunned to realize it was a decomposing body. The police were immediately called to the scene. After an initial examination, the victim was identified as a woman, estimated to be between 30 to 40 years old, with pale skin and physical features typical of East Asians. Although the face had been severely disfigured, some personal belongings were still found on the body, but no phone. Notably, the victim was not wearing a bra, and her underwear was inside out, raising suspicions of possible sexual assault. From fingerprints, the victim was identified as Byun Ah Young, 33 years old, a South Korean citizen and former famous BJ live streamer on Africa TV. She entered Cambodia on June 1, 2023, for tourism. Byun Ah Young, also known as Ong, was not only famous on Africa TV, but also a familiar face on Instagram, YouTube, and had participated in numerous live streams in China, attracting tens of thousands of viewers per broadcast. However, by March 2023, the online community was shocked when she announced she was taking a break from all online activities to find a normal life. In a private message to a close friend, Byun Ah Young revealed the real reason. "I feel like someone is following me. Every time I go outside, I feel unsafe. I need to take a break from social media." From that point on, Byun Ah Young remained relatively silent on social media. At the end of May, she unexpectedly left South Korea for Cambodia. According to entry records, she stayed at the apartment of a married couple she knew. The husband was a Chinese citizen, and the wife was Korean, living in a high-end apartment in the southern part of Phnom Penh. The building had a strict security system, requiring guests to register for entry, with cameras at all lobby and elevator entrances. Byun Ah Young was recorded as staying at the apartment since June 1st. On the afternoon of June 4th, she told her housemate that she wasn't feeling well and would go to a nearby clinic. This was the last time they saw her. The building's lobby camera recorded Byun Ah Young leaving the apartment at 3:57 p.m., wearing a black sports outfit, matching the clothes found on her body 2 days later. 17 minutes later, a street camera recorded her walking while looking at her phone, heading towards a private clinic with a blue sign. The clinic was located on Street 446, Boeung Kenkang District, with a blue metal door with the word Fu Happiness on it. No doctor's name, just some chairs, a drug shelf, and a sign listing almost all medical specialties: Chinese medicine, Western medicine, obstetrics, dermatology, acupuncture. According to nearby shopkeepers, the clinic was often empty, with some days passing without any visitors. When there were customers, most of them were Chinese, and it was rare to see Koreans visiting. A street camera clearly recorded Byun Ah Young entering the clinic at 4:14 p.m., but no one saw her leave. Exactly 1 hour and 40 minutes later, at 5:52 p.m., the camera recorded the blue metal door being closed. At the same time, the blue sign unexpectedly turned off. 20 minutes passed in silence. At 6:12 p.m., a woman in a white coat exited the clinic, glancing around suspiciously before quickly re-entering. At 6:19 p.m., the sign lit up again. Later, a man on a motorcycle was seen repeatedly entering and exiting the clinic area. He carried black bags whose contents were unclear, and his last departure was at 9:05 p.m. Everything seemed to have ended, but at 12:53 a.m., a blue 2007 Toyota Prius with license plate 2B299717 unexpectedly stopped in front of the clinic. The camera showed a woman sitting in the passenger seat getting out. The car reversed close to the gate, but due to the angle, no one knew what happened inside for the next 10 minutes. At 1:03 a.m., the woman returned to the passenger seat. The car left the clinic, silently as if it had never been there. From 4:14 p.m. to 1:03 a.m., more than 8 hours, Byun-Ah Young completely disappeared from all surveillance cameras, and all the events above seemed suspicious. The investigation clarified the identities of the two main figures captured on camera. They were the clinic owners, a Chinese couple named Lai Van Tio, 30, and Tai Tui Kien, 39. What's surprising is that neither of them had medical licenses, and the clinic operated illegally under the name Comprehensive Medical Consultation. According to immigration records, the couple had only arrived in Cambodia about 6 months prior, lived a reclusive life, and had little contact with neighbors. They spoke Mandarin and avoided discussing their background. Nearby residents described them as wealthy but cold, often traveling by motorcycle or an old car, but never drawing attention until the crime occurred. The police began expanding their investigation into Tai Tu Quyen, the wife of the couple running the clinic. They discovered she came from a family with a traditional Chinese medicine background in Guangzhou, China. Meanwhile, Lai Van Tio, her husband, was just a manual laborer. However, through his connection with his wife's family, he had learned some basic healthcare techniques, such as massage, intravenous injections, and even using unlicensed drugs. After having a child, the couple decided to move to Cambodia to start a business. According to records, they entered Cambodia from China in December 2022 and rented an apartment and space to open a clinic in Phnom Penh. Currently, the couple is confirmed to be raising a 7-month-old child, which added pressure to the investigation. As if they were guilty, they committed the crime with a child in the house. The police's hypothesis: after Byun-Ah Young died, her body was stuffed into the trunk of the Toyota Prius and transported to a construction site about 20 kilometers from the clinic, where the body was discovered on June 6. Nearby security cameras recorded the blue Prius with license plate 2B29717 turning around 5 times between 1:30 and 2 a.m., as if searching for a spot to dispose of the body. Residents near the area recalled, "I heard a car start in the middle of the night, and then someone screamed. It was unclear whether it was a man or a woman." Another person described hearing a loud crash and a strange smell in the air. Additionally, the investigation revealed this was not the first time Byun-Ah Young had visited the clinic. Security cameras confirmed that at 11:58 a.m. on June 3rd, she had been there, wearing the same black sports outfit as the one found on her body later. Although it is unclear what she came for, this appearance proves that she was no stranger to the clinic, increasing suspicions about the previous relationship between the victim and the suspects. On June 16th, the Cambodian police officially arrested Lai Van Tio and Tai Tui Quyen for investigation regarding the disposal of a corpse and suspicion of organized murder. During questioning, Lai Van Tio completely denied killing Byun-Ah Young. He only admitted, "I saw her unconscious and thought she was dead. I panicked, so I disposed of the body." He further stated, "I didn't know she was famous, and I didn't know her real name. I never watched her live streams or social media." However, the police were skeptical of this statement due to several inconsistencies with camera data, evidence at the scene, and the victim's personal belongings. At this point, public opinion in South Korea began to erupt. The hashtag Justice for Byun-Ah Young spread across Twitter, with the online community demanding the release of the suspects' identities, calling for an independent investigation, and insisting the case not be forgotten. According to his statement to the police, Lai Van Tio said Byun-Ah Young first visited the clinic on June 3rd. She just rested for a while and left without using any services. On the afternoon of June 4, the day of the incident, she returned to the clinic for the second time. This time, she requested an injection of an unknown substance, suspected to be an illegal drug. Lai Van Teo claimed that he refused this request. Instead, he proposed injecting her with an immunity-boosting serum, which he said would help her recover her strength. Some Korean media reported that it was just saline solution. However, investigative materials in Cambodia confirmed that the substance injected was a serum, with its composition still unknown. After a few minutes of injection, Byuna Young began having seizures, her whole body losing control. Instead of calling emergency services, Lai Van Teo decided to give her 4 to 5 pills of Ku Tum Huan, a type of Chinese herbal medicine. After a few minutes of silence, her body became motionless. She had no response and passed away shortly thereafter. Facing the sudden death, Lai Van Teo panicked. He realized he was practicing medicine illegally. Without a license and insurance, he was terrified. That's why he decided to dispose of the body. At that time, Tai Tui Kien, his wife, was caring for their baby in the next room. She was unaware of what was happening. Taking advantage of his wife going to the bathroom, Lai Van Teo alone dragged Byuna Young's body into the trunk of the Prius. When he got in the car, Tai Tui Kien did not notice anything unusual. She sat in the passenger seat. On the way, Lai Van Teo stopped the car at a roadside restaurant. He asked his wife to get out of the car, and it was then that Tai Tui Kien heard about what had happened. Once alone, he drove to the disposal location, a construction site over 20 kilometers away. After disposing of the body, he returned to pick up his wife as if nothing had happened. Both the husband and wife denied injecting the illegal substance into the victim. They claimed that if it was done, it was at Byuna Young's request. The substance in question was propofol, a high-dose anesthetic drug known for its ability to induce euphoria and hallucinations, and it is highly addictive. Propofol is strictly controlled in South Korea and has been involved in many medical scandals in the entertainment industry. In South Korea, propofol, the substance suspected to have been used in Byuna Young's death, is also known as happy milk or milk injection, due to its milky white appearance and the euphoric feeling it produces. Propofol was at the center of several medical scandals, especially in the entertainment industry. In early 2022, famous actor Yoo Ah-in was also arrested for using this substance illegally. A Korean journalist conducted an independent investigation in Phnom Penh. The result, for just $13, you could buy 50 milliliters of propofol at roadside pharmacies without a prescription. However, when the journalist visited pharmacies near the apartment where Byuna Young had stayed, all the staff claimed they had never seen a girl like her. It is currently unclear whether the victim used propofol. The sample has been sent to an independent analysis lab overseas. A Cambodian investigator stated that the victim's urine test was negative for illegal substances, including propofol. However, he admitted the limited forensic capabilities locally. The autopsy report provided by the Cambodian police was not a standard forensic analysis. It was only a superficial description, lacking toxicology, DNA tests, or signs of assault. In fact, there were contradictions in the report. The initial section described damage to the eye socket, bruising on the neck, and scratches on the skin, suggesting assault. But later sections denied any physical interference. More importantly, no DNA tests were conducted. This makes the assault accusation unverifiable. When asked about this, Lai Van Teo strongly rebutted, "If you suspect I assaulted her, just test the DNA. If I did it, there would definitely be traces left." However, this challenge was meaningless, because no DNA samples were ever collected. The victim was buried without proper forensic procedures. The Cambodian police explained that in-depth testing can only be done with a prosecutor's order, and a valid reason must be provided. In this case, they didn't find sufficient grounds. This sparked outrage in the South Korean community. A foreign citizen dies at an illegal clinic and no one bothers to collect DNA samples? Another hypothesis was raised. Byuna Young may not have been abused, and the marks on her body were a result of natural decomposition in Cambodia's hot and humid climate. Her body had been immersed in the mud and water for at least a day, from the afternoon of June 4th, the time of death suspected to have occurred at the clinic, until it was found on the morning of June 6. The humid environment accelerated the decomposition process. The face could have swollen, the skin turned blue, due to bacteria from the intestines spreading and blood pooling after death. These symptoms could easily be mistaken for signs of assault. However, as of now, Cambodia has not released the official cause of death of the victim. The victim's family confirmed Byuna Young was not a drug addict, had no history of substance abuse, and did not use psychiatric medication. Initially, her family refused the Cambodian police's request for an autopsy, wanting the deceased to rest in peace. However, under Cambodian law, an autopsy is required if ordered by a prosecutor, especially in unusual deaths involving foreigners. With the support of Cambodia's judicial authorities and the South Korean embassy, the victim's family consented to the autopsy. Due to limitations in technique and expertise, the samples were sent to an independent forensic agency overseas, likely in Australia or New Zealand, for testing. On June 14, 2023, the Cambodian police officially charged Lai Van Thieu, 30, and Tai Tuy Quyen, 39, with murder and brutal torture. If convicted, both could face life imprisonment, according to the provisions for serious cases involving foreigners. However, in the absence of official information and the unreported forensic results, social media erupted with a series of controversial hypotheses. The first hypothesis suggested Byuna Young came to Cambodia for an illegal cosmetic surgery, tipped off by friends in the streaming community. A security guard who was present at the scene testified that he saw a needle mark on the victim's buttocks, raising suspicions of buttock enhancement using filler or liquid silicone. The bruises on her body may not be signs of assault, but complications after undergoing an unsafe surgery at an unlicensed facility. Many netizens believe that Lai Van Thieu's clinic was actually part of an illegal cosmetic surgery ring, catering to East Asian clients, especially streamers, influencers, and amateur models. Byuna Young may have been introduced to this clinic by the couple she was staying with, a detail that complicates the suspicions even further. Additionally, a source from South Korea revealed that Byuna Young had visited Cambodia in 2019, coinciding with the time the couple was believed to have started operating in Phnom Penh. This raised the question, could they have known each other before? And was it this relationship that brought her back to Cambodia in 2023? The second hypothesis took a darker turn. Byuna Young may have been the victim of a human trafficking or covert sex trade ring, a persistent problem in Cambodia. According to this theory, she visited the clinic both times voluntarily, with no signs of being coerced from the outside. However, her death may have stemmed from resistance during the process of being deceived or forced, turning the case into a tragedy. The third hypothesis, Lai Van Thieu's clinic served as a front for a covert drug trafficking operation. Over several months, the clinic had almost no clients, but remained in a high-end apartment building, paying high rent, raising questions about the real source of its finances. Moreover, the clinic listed a wide range of treatments: Chinese medicine, Western medicine, obstetrics, dermatology, psychiatry, acupuncture. Yet inside there were almost no medical devices, just some chairs and a drug shelf. This made it look like a cover clinic to disguise illegal drugs, including propofol and other synthetic drugs. According to this assumption, Byuna Young may have visited the clinic to buy drugs for personal use. Or according to Lai Van Thieu's family's statement, she had injected an illegal substance beforehand and then requested more serum to balance her condition. However, this hypothesis faced many rebuttals. Firstly, the victim's urine test came back negative for illegal substances, including propofol and amphetamines. Secondly, Byuna Young's behavior, walk, and gestures on the security camera were completely normal. There were no signs of someone who had just used drugs. Unresolved questions continued to pile up. Why did she choose Cambodia as her destination? Who introduced her to the clinic? Was there a middleman in South Korea involved? The initial autopsy lacked many important forensic procedures, including DNA testing, biological traces, and detailed toxicology, causing public doubts about possible accomplices or interference. The case gradually became a maze of contradictions, gaps, and unverified hypotheses, while the silence from the Cambodian police further fueled suspicions. The only thing that is certain, the true cause of Byuna Young's death remains a mystery. The unusual and hard-to-explain details make this case extremely complicated and sensitive from a diplomatic standpoint. Finding the truth is inevitable, but with the political, legal, and media pressures weighing heavily, getting a clear answer in a short period of time is almost impossible. We will update you with the latest information on the case. This video ends here. If you found this story fascinating, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share so we can bring more strange, emotional stories. Thank you for watching, and see you in the next video. A woman lives with 32 men on a deserted island in the middle of the Pacific Ocean after a shipwreck. At first, they work together to survive, hunting, gathering, and waiting for rescue. But soon, the desire for possession, instincts, and power turned this place into a deadly battleground. Mysterious disappearances occurred. Many were murdered. Over 6 years of being stranded, the 32 men dwindled down to just 19 survivors. What exactly happened here? Would the only woman be protected, or would she join the list of unfortunate victims? Don't take your eyes off the screen. Unravel the most thrilling mysteries and chilling secrets you've never heard before. Before we begin, hit like and subscribe to make sure you don't miss the next stories. In 1939, under Japan's migration policy, thousands of Japanese citizens left their homeland to settle on Pacific islands occupied by Japan. Kazuko Higa, a 16-year-old girl, was one of them. She left Okinawa with her brother to Saipan in search of a new life. There, she worked as a cafe employee and quickly became the center of attention due to her striking appearance. Among her admirers, Shoichi Higa, a young man from Okinawa, successfully won Kazuko's heart. They fell in love and got married when Kazuko turned 18. In 1944, as the war expanded, Shoichi was reassigned to Anatahan, a small, isolated island in the ocean. He brought Kazuko along, unaware he was leading her into an inescapable trap. Anatahan, a deserted island in the Pacific, 9 kilometers long, spanning 33 square kilometers, with a volcano nearly 800 meters high. At the time, around 20 native residents lived on the island, and Shoichi's job was to oversee their work. News from nearby islands indicated that Japan was losing the war. Shoichi began worrying about his sister, who was still on a nearby island. One night, after receiving unclear information about his sister's situation, Shoichi decided to leave Anatahan to find her. He promised Kazuko he would return soon, but he never came back. Shoichi's disappearance devastated Kazuko. At that point, the only Japanese left on the island were her and Kiku Ichiro, Shoichi's employer, as the others had fled due to fear of the war. Left with no other choice, Kazuko had to rely on Kiku to survive. Over time, they lived together as an unwilling couple. However, this peace didn't last long. The US military began bombing the island, destroying everything from plantations to essential supplies. Kazuko and Kiku were forced to hide in the jungle to survive. After the bombing, they found the entire island devastated. All essential supplies were gone, leaving only 40 pigs and 20 chickens. While trying to rebuild their lives, an unexpected event occurred. On June 12, 1944, 4 fishing boats were attacked by the US military near the island. 3 sank completely, and only a few survivors swam to Anatahan. A total of 31 men survived, including 10 naval officers and 21 young sailors. Initially, the 31 survivors believed the island to be deserted, with no signs of life. But during a fruit gathering trip, they stumbled upon Kazuko and Kiku Ichiro. They were shocked to find Japanese people already living on the island. Kazuko and Kiku Ichiro, after living in isolation for so long, were overjoyed to see fellow Japanese arriving on the island. The pair quickly shared their food, water, and even helped treat the injuries of the new arrivals. As the population increased, the issue of food supply became critical. They soon consumed all 40 pigs and 20 chickens. Left with no other options, they turned to wild fruits, crabs, and seafood to survive. On August 15, 1945, Japan surrendered and declared defeat. But on Anatahan, no one was aware of this. In reality, there had been attempts to leave, but all tools for building or repairing boats had been destroyed, leaving the group stranded. And when one woman is stranded among 32 men, what do you think would happen? Moreover, most of the men were in their prime, full of desire, and all their attention turned to Kazuko Higa. Recognizing the potential for explosive conflicts, some wise individuals proposed a solution. They persuaded Kazuko and Kiku Ichiro to marry in front of everyone. The purpose was to affirm that Kazuko was taken, aiming to reduce disputes and jealousy. The wedding was simple yet solemn, held in the middle of the jungle. Kazuko and Kikuichiro, despite not having real feelings for each other, agreed to the marriage to stabilize the situation. After the wedding, they moved to a secluded corner of the island, living independently, away from the rest of the group. This solution seemed effective at first. Life on the island became more peaceful, but this peace did not last long. In August 1946, a group of people discovered the wreckage of a crashed American bomber deep in the jungle. Inside the wreckage, they found various supplies, including parachutes and clothing. However, what truly changed the situation were 4 damaged pistols and 90 rounds of ammunition. They managed to repair 2 of the 4 pistols. Those with military experience quickly became the new power holders on the island. These 2 men were Yamamoto and Yamaguchi. They immediately used their weapons to impose authority over the rest of the group. And of course, Kazuko was their primary target. They ordered her and Kiku to move back and live under their control. They did not hesitate to eliminate anyone who dared challenge them or showed any interest in Kazuko. One man, after expressing his admiration for Kazuko, was immediately executed by Yamamoto. This ruthless act threw the island into deeper fear, as everyone realized they could be the next target. From this point on, people's focus shifted away from Kazuko and towards the 2 pistols, now the true symbols of power on the island. Kikuichiro, Kazuko's husband, was the most terrified. He knew that if Yamamoto or Yamaguchi ever became displeased with him, they wouldn't hesitate to kill him. In a desperate situation, Kikuichiro devised a bold plan to protect himself and Kazuko. One night, Kikuichiro secretly met with Yamamoto and Yamaguchi, pretending to renounce his marriage with Kazuko and offering her to them. Yamamoto and Yamaguchi were thrilled, even praising Kiku for being intelligent and reasonable. But Kikuichiro knew that forcing both men to share Kazuko would only ignite a greater conflict. Their instincts for dominance would soon turn them from allies into enemies. As expected, it wasn't long before Yamamoto and Yamaguchi began fiercely fighting over control of Kazuko. Insults escalated into violent conflict, and ultimately, Yamaguchi emerged victorious by murdering Yamamoto. With Yamamoto gone, Yamaguchi became the island's sole ruler. He not only possessed Kazuko, but also controlled both pistols. This made him more confident in his ability to suppress the others, but it also fueled growing resentment among the weaker survivors. One day, Yamaguchi was suddenly found dead, floating in the ocean. Officially, it was labeled an accidental drowning, but everyone on the island knew it was an act of revenge. After Yamaguchi's death, the 2 pistols quickly fell into the hands of 2 new men, Nakawa and Iwai. With weapons in hand, they continued the cycle of tyranny on the island. As expected, they not only controlled all resources, but also forced Kazuko to serve them. The same pattern repeated itself, just as it had with Yamamoto and Yamaguchi. Once again, Kazuko was trapped in a cycle of power and violence, becoming an object of control and exploitation. The remaining survivors could only observe in silence, knowing that anyone who dared to resist would pay with their lives. For a little over a month, life on the island seemed stable. However, tension between Nakawa and Iwai began simmering like a ticking time bomb. The pressure of sharing Kazuko and power soon turned them against each other. One day, their conflict erupted into a violent battle. In the end, Iwai emerged victorious, and Nakawa was eliminated permanently. Now Iwai became the sole ruler of the island, controlling both pistols and Kazuko. However, learning from his predecessors, Iwai became extremely cautious. He never let go of his weapons, always staying alert to potential threats. Every move he made was carefully calculated to prevent an assassination. His extreme caution allowed him to survive for 2 years. But as if by fate, he too was eventually assassinated in a mysterious attack. One morning, Iwai's body was discovered deep in the jungle, showing signs of a fatal attack from behind. Iwai's death once again threw the island into chaos. The 2 pistols became the ultimate prize in a deadly struggle for dominance. The atmosphere was filled with paranoia and bloodshed. In the years that followed, 3 more men died under mysterious circumstances. Everyone knew the real reason: the unending battle for power fueled by the 2 pistols. Unable to endure the fear any longer, the remaining survivors decided to hold a meeting to resolve the crisis. After extensive debate, the group came up with a radical solution. Kazuko would choose one man to marry, and the 2 pistols would be thrown into the ocean, erasing the source of conflict. They hoped that once Kazuko was claimed and the weapons were gone, the island would finally know peace. This was their last chance to restore order. With the plan in motion, Kazuko chose a husband, and the 2 pistols were thrown into the sea. Everyone on the island hoped that life would return to normal. But just a few weeks later, 4 mysterious deaths and disappearances occurred. Some bodies were found under suspicious circumstances, while others were never discovered. This terrified everyone and raised the question, why were people still dying even after the guns had been thrown away? They all realized that the issue wasn't the weapons, but human greed and desire. The number of people on the island had dropped from 32 to 19 in just 5 years. A second meeting was held in a tense atmosphere. After intense debates and analysis, the group concluded that the root cause of all the tragedies was not just the guns, but also the competition for Kazuko. They made a bold decision: eliminate Kazuko. They believed that by removing her, the source of conflict would be resolved, and peace could finally return to the island. The plan was unanimously set to take place the next day. However, one man who deeply loved Kazuko couldn't remain silent. That night, he secretly met with her, revealing the group's plan and warning her to escape immediately if she wanted to live. Upon hearing this, Kazuko turned pale. That very night, she gathered whatever she could carry and fled into the dense jungle. The jungle on Anatahan was vast and treacherous. Spanning nearly 33 square kilometers, it was like a natural labyrinth. Kazuko hid in the mountain crevices, surviving on rainwater and wild fruit, staying far away from those hunting her. In the first few days, the men scoured the island searching for Kazuko, but failed to find her. Their patience gradually wore thin, and they started turning against each other, accusing and blaming one another. Meanwhile, Kazuko continued to struggle for survival in the jungle, relying on her instincts to make it through each day. On the 33rd day of her escape, Kazuko suddenly spotted an American warship anchored off the coast. She immediately climbed a tall tree nearby, waving her clothing frantically and shouting to attract the attention of the US military on the ship. A small boat was dispatched to investigate. When they found Kazuko in an exhausted and panicked state, they immediately brought her aboard and provided medical care. After Kazuko was rescued, the US military discovered that there were still survivors on Anatahan Island. A message was sent to their families, prompting many relatives to write letters informing them that the war had ended and urging them to return home. Over 200 letters were delivered to the island through the US military. However, the people on the island, living in fear and suspicion, believed this was a trap set by the Americans. They refused to leave and continued their isolated existence. On June 26, 1951, one man on the island received a letter that he was certain had been handwritten by his wife. The letter contained personal details only the couple would know, convincing him that the US military was telling the truth. This man tried to persuade the others that the war was truly over. Initially, he faced strong resistance. However, little by little, he managed to make them believe that they had lost and that life on the island could not continue indefinitely. Eventually, the group agreed to surrender to the US military and was rescued from the island. They were taken to a military base in Guam to recover before returning to Japan. The return of the survivors who had been missing for years shocked the Japanese public. Many of their families, including their wives, had long assumed they had perished in the war. Some of the wives had even remarried, including Kazuko's former husband, Shoichi. When Japanese media questioned the whereabouts of the 13 men who never returned, the survivors' statements were inconsistent. The conflicting stories fueled public curiosity and suspicion. Under intense pressure from the media, one survivor finally confessed the horrifying truth. The missing men had lost their lives in violent struggles for power, and for Kazuko, on the island. The media quickly spread the shocking revelation. The case became a nationwide scandal, with extensive reports detailing the gruesome events that took place on the island. Kazuko, the only woman on the island, suddenly became the center of public attention. She was given multiple nicknames such as the Queen of Anadahan, the Woman with 32 Faces, and the Enchantress of Men. While some media outlets showed sympathy for Kazuko, arguing that she had no other choice in such a dire situation, the majority of the public condemned her. She was viewed as the primary cause of all the tragedies that had unfolded on the island. After returning to Japan, Kazuko attempted to rebuild her life but could never escape the shadow of her past. She became the subject of endless gossip and criticism, despite the fact that she was merely a victim of unfortunate circumstances. In 1952, Kazuko received an invitation to participate in the stage play Island of Anadahan. The play recreated the horrifying story of the island, with Kazuko playing the lead role, retelling her own life story. The play quickly became a nationwide sensation, attracting widespread attention from audiences across Japan. Kazuko toured the country for 2 years. Every time she appeared on stage, she was not only admired, but also harshly criticized by those who still saw her as the cause of the island's tragedy. In 1953, the story of Anadahan Island was adapted into the film This Is the Truth About Anadahan, with Kazuko once again playing herself. The film depicted the horrifying events on the island, though certain details were altered to better suit audiences. After a few years in the entertainment industry, Kazuko decided to retire, unable to endure the continued public scrutiny and pressure. To make a living, she moved to Tokyo and became a dancer in nightclubs, leading a quieter and more obscure life. In March 1974, Kazuko passed away at the age of 50 due to a brain tumor. Her death marked the tragic end of a life filled with turmoil, from the horrors of Anadahan Island to years of public judgment and criticism. Even after her death, Kazuko left behind a story that society could never forget. She became the embodiment of the eternal struggle between human instincts and morality, a symbol reminding us of the thin line between civilization and savagery. So, what do you think? Was Kazuko a victim or a mastermind? Did she deserve the relentless criticism she faced? Share your thoughts in the comments below. This concludes the video. If you enjoyed it, please like, share, and subscribe to the channel to follow more thrilling stories. Thank you for watching, and see you in the next video. In August 2009, the police in Qinhuai District, Nanjing, China, received a report about disguised prostitution activities taking place at a hotel. During the raid, the police discovered 5 people naked and engaging in group intimacy. Upon investigation, several individuals confessed that they were lured into it by a secret chat group run by Yang Huo. From there, the police traced the mastermind behind it all, Ma Yao Hai. However, his identity left all the investigators stunned. He was none other than a university associate professor, a respected educator. By day, he lectured with an air of intellectual authority, but by night, he transformed into the leader of a secret wife-swapping club, hosting countless debaucherous parties behind closed doors. From the lecture hall to illicit hotels, a university professor turned into the ringleader of the largest wife-swapping network in Nanjing. What led him down this path? Like and subscribe to uncover the shocking truth with us. On August 17, 2009, the police received an anonymous tip about illegal adult services disguised as legitimate business operations at a hotel in Qinhuai District, Nanjing. An investigative team was dispatched to verify the claims. A quick scan of hotel records revealed multiple adjacent rooms booked under different names, with stays never exceeding 1 night, showing no signs of typical tourism. The special forces decided to take action. At 11 p.m., the raid was launched. The hotel room door was kicked open. Flashlights illuminated the cramped space, revealing 5 naked individuals, panicked and scrambling to cover themselves. The strong scent of alcohol and perfume filled the air. Terrified expressions and blank stares met the officers. There was no way to deny it. This was no innocent social gathering. The police restrained everyone in the room, seizing their phones and documents. Some still tried to justify their actions, claiming it was just a social getaway for couples. But the data on their phones told a different story. Messages, member lists, and records of previous gatherings dismantled all of their excuses. 2 names stood out in the chat history: the Ngon and Hailan. The police swiftly investigated these individuals. Eventually, one of the detained individuals confessed. The mastermind behind the entire operation was a man with the alias Yang Huo Vuong. By piecing together chat logs, hotel reservations, and testimonies, the police uncovered the true identity of the leader, Ma Yaohai, an associate professor at Nanjing University. No one could believe it. A respected educator, a man of knowledge and ethics, was the one orchestrating these secret sex parties. Based on the collected evidence, at 11 p.m. on August 21, 2009, police arrested Ma Yaohai at his home and took him to the Bailuzhou station for questioning. The arrest went smoothly. Ma Yaohai neither resisted nor showed surprise. His demeanor, shaped by years as an educator, remained unnervingly calm. Born in 1957, Ma Yaohai was an exceptional intellect, but also a man with unfathomable darkness. He graduated from Zhejiang University with a degree in mathematics in 1978, pursued a master's degree at Harbin Institute of Technology in 1986, and was appointed as an associate professor at Nanjing University of Technology in 1994. His career seemed flawless, but it was only a facade. Inside, Ma Yaohai was a lonely man. His marriage was never a happy one. In 1985, he married through an arranged match to a woman 2 years older than him. A union without love, only duty and responsibility. They lived in a cramped 9-milliquare apartment near Hansei district. Their relationship grew colder over time. No connection, no passion. By 1992, they divorced. His wife left for another country to advance her career. In 1993, she returned, but not to rekindle their relationship. She came back only to take their child away. She had remarried in America, and her new life there was far better. Reluctantly, Ma Yaohai agreed. From that moment, he buried himself in work, trying to escape reality. In 1994, a new door opened. He was transferred to Nanjing University of Technology, where he met Zhao Ling, a beautiful and intelligent lecturer. For the first time in years, he felt like someone truly cared about him. The feelings were mutual. It didn't take long for Zhao Ling to become his woman, but soon after their marriage, the distance between them grew. Zhao Ling came from a prestigious government family and looked down on his rural background. The mockery, the disdain, it was blatant. Day by day, their relationship deteriorated. The clash of social classes could not be reconciled. By 1999, Ma Yaohai could no longer endure it. He wanted out of this miserable marriage, but freedom came at a steep price. He had to give Zhao Ling 2 out of his 3 properties. Not only that, he had to write a debt acknowledgement. Everything could be measured in money, even the years of suffering they endured together. But Zhao Ling was not done. She continued to use the debt as a weapon, repeatedly suing him for large monthly payments. The court ruled that 2,000 yuan from his 4,000 yuan salary would be deducted monthly to repay her. Ma Yaohai had no choice. Despite losing nearly half of his income, he had to continue teaching, maintaining the intellectual facade that society expected from him. In 2006, Ma Yaohai was drowning under the pressures of life. Financial struggles, legal disputes with Zhao Ling, and the suffocating loneliness that clung to him every night. He began searching for an escape, a way to break free from reality. The internet became his new world. He delved into underground forums where the most forbidden topics were freely discussed. Articles on deviant relationships, immoral exchanges, and conversations that only belonged in the shadows. A chat group called Wife Swapping Game appeared. Someone had invited him in. A small, anonymous group with members who shared a twisted interest. He hesitated, but eventually clicked the link. Chinese media had previously reported about a former female police officer who quit her job to create a website called Asian Connection Center. It was a platform where married couples shared their experiences with partner swapping. He read every description, every story. He was mesmerized. This was nothing like the marriage he had known. It was a world without restrictions, without betrayal, without pain. Everything was based on absolute consent. But there was one problem. These groups required video identity verification of both husband and wife. A major obstacle for him. A single man. He decided to lie. On the registration form, he claimed that his wife was abroad and would verify their identities once she returned. It was a perfect lie, but not enough to fool those who had been in this game for years. He was rejected. Again and again. But if he couldn't join a group, he would create his own. In 2007, a new chat group was born, Independent Travel for Couples and Married Partners. A seemingly innocent name, but what happened inside was far from ordinary. 3 core rules were established: no large gatherings, no explicit images, and no discussions about politics. These rules were just enough to avoid detection while still attracting like-minded individuals. In the early months, the group was simply a space to share intimate experiences and marriage-related discussions, nothing too different from other forums. But gradually, it evolved. The discussions became darker. It was no longer just about relationships. Now, members openly talked about wife swapping and partner exchanges. Ma Yaohai was no longer just an observer. He actively participated, asking questions, sharing experiences from what he had read. He didn't have a wife to exchange, but that didn't matter. He was the leader, the one who controlled everything. The first gatherings were organized. They were disguised as vacation trips and weekend getaways. By day, they were just like regular tourists. But when night fell, everything changed. In a private room with soft music playing, the assisted undressing ritual began. A symbolic start where couples helped each other remove their clothing to eliminate any awkwardness. Then came the nights of debauchery, pleasure-filled events that lasted until dawn. Once there was a first time, there would always be a second. The number of participants increased. Hotels and secluded rental villas became their regular venues. The member list expanded across all social classes. They were security guards, office workers, taxi drivers, ordinary people with an extraordinary secret. No one knew about each other's personal lives. No one asked about jobs, families, or backgrounds. There was only one rule. Everything was voluntary. No one could be forced or obligated. Participants did not immediately indulge. They sat together, talked like old friends. If someone had the desire, they would quietly leave. No pressure, no coercion. This was not reckless hedonism. It was an organized system with unspoken rules. None of them believed they were doing anything wrong. To them, it was just a conditional exchange, a private agreement. The meetings weren't limited to hotels. Ma Yaohai's own home, where he lived with his Alzheimer's-stricken mother, also became a location for these social gatherings. When someone initiated, he would invite the right people into his bedroom. Once the door closed, the games began. But things started to change. After being rejected multiple times by younger women, Ma Yaohai developed deep insecurities. Even as the leader, he realized he couldn't have everything he wanted. In May 2009, he made a shocking decision. He announced the dissolution of the chat group, shutting down the gatherings he once took pride in organizing. But just 3 months later, in August 2009, fate intervened. An anonymous tip-off reached the police. One name appeared on the investigators' desks: Ma Yaohai. Authorities immediately launched an investigation. They traced chat logs, hotel bookings, and surveillance footage from the places he frequented. One by one, the names were revealed. The network Ma Yaohai believed to be airtight was being unraveled, layer by layer. The midnight raid on August 17, 2009, was the final blow. At a hotel in Qinhuai district, police caught a group of people naked, participating in a private party. The first confessions emerged. When interrogated, some admitted they had joined under the invitation of someone known as Yang Huo. Just days later, the true mastermind was exposed. Ma Yaohai, a respected associate professor at Nanjing University of Technology. One by one, the participants were arrested. By the end of 2009, the police uncovered the full extent of the operation. Between the summer of 2007 and August 2009, a total of 22 people participated in 35 separate debauchery gatherings. Among them, Ma Yaohai was the central figure. He personally organized or attended 18 of these parties, 14 of which were held at his own home. The shocking truth was even more disturbing. Among the 22 participants, only 2 were actual married couples. The rest were individuals who joined for their own reasons. Ma Yaohai was not only the oldest in the group, he was also the most educated, a scholar, a professor, yet the mastermind behind a debaucherous underground network. After the wife-swapping scandal was exposed, he was forced to resign. No more reputation, no more stable income. On April 1, 2010, a legal enforcement notice was sent to him. The name of the plaintiff remained unchanged: Zhao Ling. She demanded the remaining debt be paid, despite the fact that he was now penniless. Ma Yaohai slumped over his desk. Pressure was closing in on him, not just from Zhao Ling, not just from the collapse of his career, but from something even more terrifying. His family was falling apart. His mother suffered from Alzheimer's. She no longer recognized her own son, and even the simplest daily tasks had become impossible without his full support. Mental illness ran in his family. The terrible disease did not stop at his mother. His older brother and sister had also developed severe mental disorders. This reality completely shattered him, yet he remained stubborn. He stood before the court, insisting that his actions were not criminal. With a steady voice, he declared, "Everyone who participated was willing. No one was forced. This is personal life, not a crime." The courtroom erupted in murmurs. Journalists fixated on the defendant, attendees whispered among themselves. A university professor who had organized 18 mass orgies, yet he shamelessly claimed he was innocent. The prosecutor countered his argument. Investigation records, witness testimonies, and images from the hotel raid all prove that this was not just a private affair, but a well-organized operation with structured membership and recruitment. Ma Yaohai stubbornly refused to admit guilt, but the evidence was overwhelming. The trial lasted from April 7th to April 8th, 2010. 22 defendants stood before the judge. 21 of them bowed their heads and pleaded guilty. No one argued, no one resisted. But there was one exception. Ma Yaohai stood firm. He insisted he was innocent. On May 20th, 2010, the final verdict was announced. Ma Yaohai and the other defendants were officially convicted of organizing mass debauchery gatherings. He received the heaviest sentence, 3 years and 6 months in prison. The other defendants, showing remorse, were only given suspended sentences of 3 to 6 months. This was the first time in China's legal history that such a large-scale wife-swapping case was tried publicly. The public reaction was explosive. Some believed the sentence was too lenient for Ma Yaohai. He had not only broken the law, but had corrupted moral values. Others argued that the court had overstepped its bounds and intervened too deeply in personal lives. He was sent to prison. No more lecture halls, no more secret parties in luxury hotels. All that remained was a solitary man, abandoned by society. Zhao Ling, his ex-wife, never appeared at the trial. But sources revealed that right after the verdict, she filed another lawsuit to claim his remaining debt. From a man who once had everything, he lost it all. His career, his family, his reputation, destroyed because of pleasures he once thought were harmless. 3.5 years later, Ma Yaohai was released. But as he stepped out of the prison gates, no one was there to welcome him. No home to return to. No one who wanted to remember him. The case was closed, but the name Ma Yaohai became a dark stain in China's legal history. A lesson in moral downfall, a reminder of boundaries that should never be crossed, whether in darkness or daylight. This concludes today's video. If you found this story compelling, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share so we can bring you more bizarre and emotional stories.